Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Take Back My Brain. We are going to have a really fun podcast today. I'm your host, Laurie Hammer, and my special guest today is Rachel Lavin, and she has written a book called Diaries, which I just love. I love the title. And so we're going to talk about body image. We're going to talk about how to love your body in every stage of life. And I think this is going to be a really good eye opener and an encouragement, and just provide all you ladies out there with some hope and some joy, no matter where you are and where your body is in every stage of life. So Rachel, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So I love the title of your book, Diaries, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how did you come up with the book, and why did you call it Diaries, and just give me a little background about you.
Of course. Well, my book is titled The Donut Diaries because I'm sure, like we all do, we have a favorite food when we're a kid, and there's no association, bad or good, to it. It just brings us joy. And for me, that was donuts. And so when I grew up and got sucked into diet culture and realized that I could never eat a diet or eat a donut again, you know, lived that way for so long. So when I decided that I really wanted to free myself, a donut was the first thing I allowed myself to
Ah,
eat. Was and
yeah.
so what better title for my book, right?
Right. What was your favorite donut?
Oh my god, I'm always a cake donut with sprinkles.
Really? I love that too. Mine wasn't a cake. What's the other one what's the one called that's like,
Yeast, like yeast.
yeah, and it had pink frosting with
Oh,
sprinkles.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, then we could only get it at Dunkin' Donuts, and that was in Maryland when I was little, because we didn't have Dunkin' Donuts where in Iowa when I was little. So whenever we'd visit my grandparents, we got to go to Dunkin' Donuts, and I got a pink donut with sprinkles.
Oh, see, it's a beautiful memory for you
I
too.
know, it was so much fun, and then I could dip it in my grandpa's coffee. So the only time I
That's
got coffee.
that's cute.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me about your journey, because obviously when you finally write a book on Donut Diaries, and you've had this like, what I want to say, not a really good relationship with your body or with food, there's got to be a lot of revelation that you've come to.
Absolutely. I mean, diet culture, dieting, having a bad, horrible, negative relationship with myself and my body lasted for 40 years of my life. And when I turned 40 is when it kind of just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I just got sick and tired of feeling betrayed by my body and always just self-conscious and all. I was like, I want to be happy, right? But how
Right?
do I do that? How do I do that? Because so many times tried and failed. And I realized I had to heal myself from all those childhood wounds that made me see my body and myself in a way that didn't fit into this world. And being a personal trainer, a female personal trainer, I think it gets intensified because you
Oh,
have to look
sure.
a way, you have to behave a certain way, you have to eat a certain way. And now I just don't believe that anymore. And I feel like so much weight has been lifted off my shoulders and I feel free. And I just want to share that with every other woman in the world because I know how it feels to just be bogged down with feeling like I can only eat chicken and kale for the rest of my life.
That's
I only,
awful.
yeah, I can only, do whatever kind of workout for the rest of my life. I can't go to parties, all those crazy things that go on in our mind, but we believe it. We believe it wholeheartedly. And I'm here to tell you and your listeners, guess what? We've been lied to. We've been lied to our whole lives, and we don't have to live like that anymore.
Right. What do you think the biggest lies have been? Like your top two or three, what are they?
Oh, well, first and foremost, you're thin, you're happy. Thin equals happy. There's just
Right?
no in between about that. And that you only have to ingest 2,000 calories a day, like, or less, right?
Or less. Yeah. That's not good.
That's a super duper lie. And eating things that you absolutely hate because you think they're healthy.
Yeah, right. Right. Those are really good. Yeah. So let's explore that first one. Um, let's dive into that one, because I want to tell you, where I'm coming from as well, is that um, I had a battle with an eating disorder, like officially, I would say probably for 12 years. I said there was a really bad relationship with food just due to family dynamic stuff before that. And it took me a long time to unwind that after the eating disorder was, quote unquote cured. So I had a really bad body image of myself, and I binged and I purged very frequently in the last few years of my eating disorder. It was, many times a day, often. And I'm actually really lucky to be here because, I would have seizures because my electrolytes were so off. I pass out in friend's house. I passed out one time driving. It was not a good situation. And so, once I got my brain balanced and I cut the cravings and stuff with the therapy that I now do for people, I was able to work through a lot of those things that were kind of the triggers and stuff. But, I would still say sometimes it still kind of creeps in there when I get like stressed or there's a lot going on. Kind of subconsciously, I'll be like, oh, I can't wear that, or I don't know what to wear. It kind of still creeps back in a little bit to like body image, where, you're like, I thought I got rid of all of that, but it's still sort of like, it still kind of sneaks in there and it makes me mad.
I hear you, but you have to recall how long you lived in that other mindset.
Right.
And I tell people all the time, yes, I've been on this healing journey for 11, almost 12 years now, but guess what? Still have my days, still have my days where I get upset too. And the one thing that I can say to people who feel that way, like we do, just remember it's just a moment. It's just a
Right.
moment in your day. And guess what? You get to have the next moment, remembering how much work you've done and how that you don't have to live like that anymore. So, yes, of course, those moments creep in, but I'm sure you've been doing the work long enough
Oh
too, where
yeah.
you can remind yourself how much you've done and how far you've come.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to that first lie. I like, thin equals happiness, right? So can you expound on that a little bit and just unwrap that for us? Because I know there's a
Yeah.
lot of people going, yep.
Well, I think as women, I literally say this all the time. We came out of the womb believing that we had to be, 26, 34, 26. We had to have long hair. We could never be seen without makeup. And if we were like 5 pounds overweight, we were never going to be loved. We were never going to be happy. I mean, all the lies that are perpetuated in our society, we
Yeah.
believe. And I
Yeah.
think that it's such a weird thing. Like you have all these diet commercials and all these diets coming at you. Oh my God, I lost 40 pounds and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah.
And then, Oreo comes out with their like Christmas flavors. So how are we supposed to think clearly in that kind of information that comes at us all day, every day? Well, you have to take a stand and you have to say, no more of this. I have to figure out what's going to make Rachel happy or what's going to make Laura happy. And you have to work on that because there's no way that I ever found true happiness when I was always looking outside. I had
Right.
to really like look in here and realize that honestly, the only thing that was ever going to make me happy was myself.
Right. Right. And the scripture tells us the Lord looks on our heart and man looks on the outward appearance, right? So what's our heart? What's our soul look like? What has an eternal value, right? And the size of your thighs don't have an eternal value, right? So they just really don't.
Very true.
Right, right. So how do you reconcile then, like, being healthy? Because thin is equated with healthy, right? So, but I think most people understand that that's not true. Thin does not equal health. You can be super thin and be very unhealthy. I see it all the time in my practice. But there is a certain point where you do cross the line of like weight and those types of things where that does become unhealthy. So how do we navigate those things with being happy with where we are, but yet still giving our body what it needs and maintaining a healthy lifestyle?
I think it's so important to understand that it's not just how it's delivered to us, right? It's like you eat less, you're thinner, you're happy. There's so many things that come into play with your health, right? It's your
Right.
sleep habits, it's your eating habits, it's your movement habits, it's your mental health, it's your stress. I mean, and it only compounds more as we get older. So it's not just, guess what? I'm going to lose 30 pounds. I'm going to be happy. It's more like, what do all those other things look like?
Yeah.
And I really truly believe that it's so important because we live in this antiquated society when it comes to our health. And you have to start questioning and advocating for yourself. A perfect example is, the BMI chart or a
Yes.
scale, or things that doctors are still using to describe your barometer of health. And those things are not accurate levels of
Right.
Rachel is healthy or Rachel is not healthy because she weighs this much. And I would love it if people would start to really start thinking for themselves and start to realize, you know what, that really makes no sense.
Right.
And because unfortunately, in our society, men and women and children alike still believe the things that you and I believed back in the 80s and
Right.
90s.
Yeah.
And for those lies to still be perpetuated is astounding, but we still have to do something about it. And having these conversations for me is the best way to do that.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. I would love to like go to the scale thing, like when you go to the doctor and that's your measure of health. So I never weigh anybody. It's like on my form. If people fill it out, great. If they don't, that's fine. I really don't care. Some people come and they're like, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds. Other people like, I want, to feel good and have energy. And if I lose weight by byproduct, it's fine. So I feel like, you and I can give women permission. Like, you don't have to weigh yourself. Like, if you go to the doctor, you can say, I don't want to be weighed. I haven't been weighed, not that I go to the doctor, but the few times I have in like the last, when I was pregnant, I can't remember, I had a cancer scare, those kind of things. I've been at the doctor. I'm like, I don't weigh myself. You're not going to weigh me. And they are taken aback by it. But
Yep.
like, I don't, unless I'm getting anesthesia and you have to know what I weigh or something of that
Yep.
nature, that's not going to be a piece of my health. You're not going to weigh me and you're not going to measure me, because I spent 12 years in an eating disorder doing that, measuring my health by that standard. And I refuse to do that now, nor am I going to let anybody else do that either. So
Good for you. I
I
mean,
don't even know what I weigh.
and it doesn't matter,
It
it
doesn't.
does not matter. And I think the beautiful thing is that you can do that now. I don't think women understand that you can actually say, no, thank you to
No,
the
thank
weighing
you.
part,
Yeah.
and again, if a nurse or the doctor says why, and I tell them the truth, I'm recovering from, diet culture. I don't want to know.
No. And they're like, well, stand up backwards. I'm like, no,
You're like, you're still writing it down, and
you're
I'm
still
still,
writing it down and you're still going to
yeah,
use that as a piece of, who I am. And that's not who I am. So no.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love your strength.
So I'm just giving you all permission out there. And next time you go to the doctor, you don't want to be weighed. No, no, don't do it. Like, they're
Yeah.
still going to see you and they're still going to help you. They just won't have your weight. So unless you need anesthesia, you don't need it. Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what was your second myth? I'm trying to remember what order you went in.
Oh, so thin is happy, and then oh my god, I forgot too. But I know one of them was, how we all survive on these healthy foods because we think we have to, and
Right. Eating chicken and kale all day long. Yeah.
yeah, you don't need to
I
do
really
that.
don't like kale. I really
Oh,
don't. I've
hate
tried,
it.
there's a couple kale things that I'm like, yeah, that's okay. But only if I like cook it down and I put it with like some soft goat cheese and other cheese and make a dip out of it. Then I really like kale. So,
My
and then I put
god.
that on top of my steak and my potato. So,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Well, and I just love to tell women that I work with, it's like there are so many other beautiful foods, chock full of nutrients that taste great. They're gonna
Yes.
make your body feel good. And you don't have to hold your nose while you're trying to shovel it in. Because
Yeah.
again, what kind of life is that? Right? You're
Right.
still not at peace with yourself. You're still believing that I have to eat kale to be healthy. And just again, all those things are lies.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I encourage people to try new foods. And we're not saying don't try new foods, because I really think you should try new foods because there's so many foods out there. However, don't be like in a dogmatic style where like this is all you can eat, etc. So yeah, for sure. So what do you teach people to eat? Like, because some people have food sensitivities, some foods are
Yep.
better than others. Obviously, high sugar packaged foods aren't good for people. So how do we navigate all of those things? Because I teach a lot of diet variation with people. So tell me how you navigate this.
Well, I am only able in my certifications to have conversations. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a dietitian in any way. But when I'm talking about my experience, I feel confident in that. But I had to do just what you said. I had to test a whole bunch of foods. I had to recognize that some foods, albeit said healthy,
Yeah.
still did not work well with my body. And so that's why I do things like tell people you got to start listening to your body's signals. Things like gas, bloating, discomfort, stomach aches, all those things that we're just so ready to take a pill for is your body's way of saying, you know what, I don't like this. Can you not eat this anymore?
Mm-hmm.
It's really simple. But then we're putting medications on top of already symptoms. And it's just, no wonder our bodies, we don't trust our bodies, and our bodies are like in a constant state of inflammation because of these things.
Right, right. Our bodies are very smart. They're very intricately wired. We're designed beautifully, and we've just really lost touch,
Mm-hmm.
with the signals and understanding, what our body is trying to tell us. So, when you're talking about body love, Rachel, what
Mm-hmm.
exactly do you mean? Because that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people.
Yes. For me, I would love it if you would start to realize that if you don't love yourself from the inside, you're never going to love yourself from the outside. It's not as simple as a light switch to say, oh, I'm body positive. I love my body no matter what. Well, okay, that's great. And I'm not begrudging anyone who says that. But from me, my personal experience was that was not enough. I had to love Rachel, and I had to love Rachel from the inside out, or else there was no way I was going to heal my relationship with my body.
Right, right. So, what do you think are some of the negative things that women tell ourselves that need to be dispelled?
Everything we think. I mean, if people went on in my head at the height of my, tearing myself down, they would be appalled at the things I would say to myself.
Right.
And I literally would skip out on making plans with people because I didn't want to be seen in the world.
Mm,
And that was all in my head.
yeah.
You're too fat, you're not this, you can't do that. I mean, all the things I used to tell myself. And for me, that's the first step. You have to realize how mean you are to yourself, right?
Right. Because you
And
wouldn't say those things to somebody who was next to you, right? You wouldn't tell your best friend those things.
no, not at all.
So why do we
And
tell ourselves those things?
well, I think maybe the beginning story is different for people. I know that some people are told something over and over again and it just becomes a part of them. And then another woman was told something once by somebody and she made that her truth.
Internalized
So
it.
I think the origin story for people, even though we all have similar stories, might be different, but we only make it worse by the things that we say to ourselves and the things that we think. And so
Right.
for me, that's the first step. You have to become very aware of that, and you really have to work hard to change that narrative. It's not easy. And sometimes, even like I said, 11 years down this journey, I still say things to myself. And I know I'm having a real bad day if I actually utter them out
Right. Right. Oh my gosh. Totally, for sure. So as we're women, like I just turned 50 in August. And so, there's a lot of transition that kind of happens when you hit 50 and after, right? And so your
loud.
body just it feels different, it reacts different. You kind of go through the perimenopause, transitioning into menopause. So things look different. Things aren't as perky. Things are a little saggy. Things, you all know what I'm saying out there. The girls just don't hang like they used to, right? So, you get some wrinkles and you get all these things. So how do you accept your body in all these different stages? How do you teach people to do that? What's your strategy there?
Well, I mean, you couldn't have said it better yourself. We're going through changes as we get older. And the sooner that we just kind of accept this is our body and this is our body moving forward, and to treat it with as much love and kindness as possible. Like, I'm going to be 52 next month, and I'm definitely starting like full on menopause. I feel it. I feel my body just being different.
Right.
And I can't do anything to stop it. So I might as well just really nurture myself through this time.
Mm-hmm.
And, just it's going to happen. So why not just like
Embrace
let it
the
happen.
change, right?
Yeah, embrace
Yeah.
it. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Embrace
So
it and
I,
know that there's just some beautiful things that are going to come out of this next season of your life. And
mhm.
it doesn't really matter what your body looks like. I mean, you want to be healthy. You want to be able to move and to do all the
Sure.
things that you know that you're created to do. So I'm not saying sit on the couch and, eat donuts and Doritos all day. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying keep your body moving and also knowing that this change can be really beautiful. And if you embrace it properly, there's going to be a lot more wisdom that come out of it. You have more opportunity to nurture and mentor other people because this is your new season of life. And so, how do
Yeah.
how do we how do we paint this beautiful, tapestry or picture? I think is
Yeah.
really key for sure.
Agreed with you 100%. I am looking forward to like the whole like period part of it being over. I mean, the hot flashes are a trip and they're weird to deal with, but like I can't wait to be done with that part.
Yeah. And I think when we have a different mindset about it, the transition is easier. Like I think we've been lied to. Another lie that we've been told, Rachel, is that this is going to be so hard and it's going to look really ugly and you're going to feel this way and that way and you just have to grit and bear it. And it really doesn't have to be that awful. There's
Right.
things you can do to minimize symptoms, but like, and again, changing your mindset on all of it. Yeah, I just feel so bad. I just feel like we've been told so many lies about us as women and to just like live with those lies because that's just we've made that our identity. And our
Right.
identity isn't our body image.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. And that's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you tell your younger self? Like if you had to go back, say 16, because that's where, a lot of this stuff kind of rears its ugly head. Like we hold on to those things that we hear when we're 16. What would you tell your 16-year-old self?
For me, it was actually 11. I know now
Okay.
after kind of doing the work that that's when my body image took a turn. So I would tell my 11-year-old girl self that yes, you're developing very quickly, but it's normal. You're not the only one. You're not alone, and it's gonna be okay.
Which is really hard to take in when you're 11 and things are changing really fast.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I would say I was a late bloomer. So I felt bad that I was a late bloomer,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, everybody else is experiencing all of this and I'm not. And then once I, started menstruating and all those kind of things, I was sick. Like it didn't go well at all. I broke out with cystic acne. I had horrible periods. It was awful. I was anxious, depressed. It was a mess.
Yeah.
And so I would love to know a little bit of what I know now to go back and like, educate myself at that point or educate my mom. I mean, she didn't know. She was in the same
Right.
boat. Her hormones were a total freaking wreck, you know?
Like sit
So,
down your mom then and teach her how to have the conversation with you. Absolutely. Yeah.
absolutely, because it just wasn't pretty. It was all a shambles.
Yeah. I relate to you in that for sure.
Yeah. So when you're working with people with body image, like what are some steps that you start with for them?
The first thing they get to do is pick a package of Post-its in their very favorite color or a
Okay.
pen in their very favorite color. And they have to write things, kind things to themselves about themselves.
Oh, okay.
It can be further than I have pretty hair, right? I think it's so important for them to pick something that they don't already believe about themselves. Like, I
Mm,
mean, I think a lot of people, I mean, you have a beautiful smile. So I'm sure you know that. You've known that your whole life. So I don't think you need to like practice that, right?
sure.
But for you, something that was important to you, you write that on the Post-it. And you have to put it in a place where you see it every day. And you
Yeah.
can't just read it to yourself. You have to say it. You have to say it out loud. And the final step in that is that you have to be okay with not believing it at first.
Right. Right. So why do we have to say it out loud?
Because we're already so in our heads with our thoughts, and we really can't differentiate that our thoughts and thinking are two different things. We
Sure.
think they're one thing. So if you say it out loud, you hear yourself, you see it. I mean, I think we're all different learners, right? For me, I'm what they call a kinesinetic learner. I have to see it, I have to hear it, I have to touch it or do it.
Yeah.
I can't learn with just one of those things. It's very hard for me. I was a horrible student. But now that I know that about myself, I embrace that. So I look, I hear, I speak it, whatever I need to do to really get it in there.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why, yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay, so then you're looking at these post-it notes, you're saying them out loud, you're basically faking it till you make it, right? So like saying it till you believe it. And then what do you teach?
So then the next thing is we have to take those kind things and really realize that you don't need to ask somebody else your value, right? I think women so often give our power away by saying, do I look fat in this? Or have I gained weight? Or, you just, again, you're speaking something that's really none of anyone else's business out into the world and asking someone else to make your decisions about how you feel about yourself. And
Right.
we women really need to stop that. I think we're so apologetic and we're so, what's the word? When you're just so pleasing, you just want to be a people
Right.
pleaser.
Right.
That's such an energy sucker. And we
Yeah.
need to stop. And that takes practice too. So
Yeah, because it's a boundary issue.
yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So the minute you want to tell your husband or your partner or a friend, do I look fat? Don't say it and see what happens.
Right. Right. Oh, that's a good one because it's hard not to. Because you don't want to look like an idiot.
Well, listen, I think it's also important to understand the difference between I need this, I need you to validate me versus I would love a compliment. I mean, we all love
Right.
compliments,
We
right?
do. Yeah. Yeah.
So that to me, there's a huge difference.
Oh yeah. I'll fish for compliments from my husband. Definitely. Because he was like, okay, let's go. I'm like, do you like my outfit? Like I'll fish for him for sure. But I
Yeah,
don't
but
know that I've ever
I think
asked
you
him, do I
know
look
where you
fat in this?
stand.
I don't know that I would want to ask, like, do I look fat in this? I'm like, I'm not gonna ask that question. I don't want the answer. I think my daughter would probably tell me if I did though. She'd be like, Mom, don't wear that, you look fat.
Oh,
But not in like a mean way. She just would be like, yeah, that's not flattering. Go try something else on. Because our daughters are just very, very honest. At least mine is. She's very honest.
they're all fashionistas, aren't they?
They are, especially when they're 16 and 17, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So give me some examples of things that you've changed in your own personal life so that our listeners can have some practical, like, hi, she did it that way. That's a really good idea. I bet I could set that boundary as well.
Of course, like just in general, or
Yeah, just in general, or maybe even some specific things.
well, I stopped restricting. I stopped
Yeah.
immediately because for me that was my downfall. Excuse me. So sorry. I allow myself to eat something when I want it. Now that I'm very aware of how foods react to my body, there
Yeah.
are things that I don't eat anymore, but not because I think they're going to make me bigger. So I just don't diet. I don't diet. I listen to my body when it comes to my movement. For me, I'm not born with natural thinness. It's not a put down, it's just the truth. I
Sure.
have to work out. I do. And but the benefits that strength training give women, in their 40s and 50s, I love it. I love being a 52-year-old woman and being strong. And
Right.
when people describe me as that, I'm like, yeah, you know what I mean? So I love being strong. So strength training for me is, I love it. It makes me feel good. It makes me happy. It's my therapy, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
But I've learned that if I wake up that day or I'm doing something and my body is just like, not today, I don't push. I listen. And I'm
Right.
actually better off for it if I do take a rest day. So listening to my body has become really, really paramount in my recovery. And I highly recommend that you get back in touch with your body.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I had an interesting conversation with, she's a Division 1. Well, she was a Division 1 rower. And she's now my client. And we were talking about, extreme training, like in high school and in college. And she was telling me that she went back to an alumni thing at her college, and all of the women rowers who are alumni, all of them have something wrong with them. Some of them, their knees are bad. Some of them, their arms and their shoulders are bad. Some of them, they can't work out anymore because their body hurts so bad, and I think we've been pushed in society as women to like, we are different than men. Like our body is completely different, responds completely different. Like you cannot do what a man does. There are some things, yes, you can, but you cannot perform for the most part at the same level as a high level male athlete, as a high level, female athlete. Hands down, it doesn't work that way. And I think we have taught our younger generation, like push, 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 push. Don't listen to your body. Just keep pushing because you want to be the best. You want to get the fastest time. You want to do this. You want to do that without thinking about any long-term consequences. I mean, there's so many athletes that I see, like they're just infertile, but they're quote unquote healthy.
Yeah.
Why? Because their body doesn't have enough resources to repair the shoulder or the knee or to get pregnant or whatever that may be. So I think what you're saying is so key, Rachel, that just listening to your body, allowing your body to recover. And if it's a day you're like, not that you're being lazy, but you're like, you know what? My body just needs to go for a walk today. I mean, it's so key. And listening with our cycle, like we're not taught to do anything around our cycle. We just like struggle through the cycle. But there's so many key components that we learn to listen to our body and we pay attention to our cycle, like things are going to get so much better. The food we eat, our exercise, our mood, our intimacy, everything.
Agreed. And I think it's so important for women who do have that mindset, oh, I can't skip a workout. I can't skip a workout. Exercise is cumulative and you're actually doing it for longevity. You're not even though we've been trained to think we have to do it to make our bodies smaller. That's not why we exercise. That's not why we move our body. We move our body so we can stay as independent for as long as we can.
Right. And if I want to crawl around with my great grandkids.
Yes. And if we think about it in those terms, I wonder if it would change for people. Right. Because it's like, do I go out to a party for Christmas or do I go to the gym? Like we don't have to have either or anymore. It can just be, I'm going to a party today and tomorrow I'm going to work out. It really doesn't have to be the pressure we put on ourselves.
Right. And it doesn't have to look a specific way. Like several years ago, I really hate going to the gym. I love to move. I love to work out. I love to be outside. Like that's not an issue, but I really hate being inside on a treadmill, walking on a track, everybody else's sweat, 72 TVs going on. Like I just don't enjoy it. I really don't enjoy it. And so I came to the point, I'm like, you know what? I don't have to go to the gym. I can work out at home. I can walk. I can do all these things that I enjoy doing. And if I choose to go, then it's good. But I allowed myself to get rid of the mindset like, oh, I have to go work out at the gym, like, because there's no other way. Right. So giving yourself permission to, I love walking. I walk for an hour every day with my dogs. I love that time. Like that's my favorite time, like getting up and just going for a walk. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's great.
That's amazing. I love that. And it's really, I'm so happy you pointed that out. It's so important to realize that we're not all built the same, right?
Yeah.
I love going to the gym. I love it, but you don't. And so that doesn't make me bad, good, whatever, same you. It just makes it different. And that's great.
And that's okay. Yeah. It's kind of like when all my friends and my husband were doing CrossFit. And I'm like, oh, I can do CrossFit. Like I could do CrossFit. I can work out hard. Those are the worst 4 months of my life. I'm like, I am so sick of being, hurt and tired, and I'm not enjoying this. And that's nothing against CrossFit. Some people thrive in it. I just am like, this is just not my gig. Yeah. And it was okay to say that. I felt guilty at first, but then I got over it. I'm like, oh, I feel way better now. This is great.
Yeah, I hear you. You couldn't pay me to CrossFit.
And I have friends that, they're like women on steroids in CrossFit, that type of exercise. And that's great. I love lifting weights. I like doing that, but that wasn't my thing. Yeah. So you got to find your thing, right? You got to find your thing, Rachel.
Yes, try lots of things and see what feels best. If you walk away from a workout and you're like, oh my God, I can't move for a week, it's probably not for you. But if you leave that workout feeling energized, and I mean, being a little sore is perfectly
Yeah,
normal,
totally.
but having to like lift your own leg out of the bed or like doing, I mean, that's not great. That's not great for your body.
No, it's really not. Like you shouldn't be that pathetic. Or maybe you should have started slower and worked up to that level.
That's good too.
Yeah, that's good too. What do you want to leave the listeners with? Because I know you've got more gold nuggets in there.
Oh, thank you. I just want you all to know you're not alone. That's number one. And the second thing is that anyone, as long as you're willing to put in the work, can get off this diet roller coaster.
Yeah, for sure. So where do people find, your work, your message, your tools, resources?
Well, you can find me Rachel Lavin Wellness. That's my website as well as my social media handles. My book, The Donut Diaries, is available on Amazon. So please go get a copy. But honestly, if you just want to talk, like have conversations like we're having, love to do that. So
Awesome.
feel free to private message me. I'm never going to turn someone down if they just have a question or want to talk. I'm here.
I love it. This has been a great conversation. I think it's really important and they need to be had more often. So thank you for being willing. Thank you for putting yourself out there, for being vulnerable, for teaching women, and for just, loving all of us. So we really appreciate you and your message. And I appreciate all the listeners out there today. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. And I will see you in the next episode. Have a beautiful day.